let's now talk about college football week 10. There are 8 things I find noteworthy that I want to highlight. I already talked about Ole Miss against Liberty. Ole Miss beat Liberty 27-14. Let's dive in number 1, though. Purdue beat number 3 Michigan State 40-29. And on October 16th, Purdue knocked off number 2 Iowa. Now, 3 weeks later, they just beat number 3 Michigan State. And I think if you're Michigan State, there's no shame in losing. Like, you've had a great year. I think in some ways, Michigan State has overachieved. If a bit, if anything, that's what they've done. Purdue quarterback Aiden O'Connell had a massive day. He was 40 for 54 passing with 536 yards, 3 touchdowns. Purdue receiver David Bell had a ridiculous day. He had 11 catches for 217 yards and a touchdown. Great win for Purdue. Their program is in a really good spot right now. They've continually been beating top teams in the country. That's awesome for them. They're like, I called them, I think, when they beat Iowa. They're the spoiler makers. Their mascot's called they're the Purdue Boilermakers. No, this is a team called now the Purdue Spoilermakers because they spoil other teams' years, and that's pretty fun. Michigan State's playoff hopes are basically done. They're 8-1 now, and it's been a good run. But would you take 8-1 Michigan State or 8-1 Ohio State? I think no matter what I believe, I think the committee would pick Ohio State. Still, man, I really respect the year that Purdue has had so far. Man, they just had a beating Michigan, going on a great run. Mel Tucker's awesome. Like, I don't know how you don't look at Michigan State, and even if you're an MSU fan, a Spartan fan, you got to feel proud of what your team has done. I mean, sorry, you lost. Okay. I understand the pain, but can you appreciate what you guys are doing? It's fantastic. And I love the Michigan State running back, Kenneth Walker. I would draft this guy. Now, I don't value running backs as much as other people. Like, I would not really draft a running back in the first round. Maybe like 28th overall, something like that. But I find the value in running backs is finding a guy like Kenneth Walker in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round. And the dude is awesome. Doesn't get a lot of yards receiving. I don't really know if he can pass block. But what I've seen running the football, I'm like, hey, some NFL team's going to find Kenneth Walker, bring him in, and he's going to be a great number 2 back, maybe a starter eventually. Kind of like Dalvin Cook wasn't a first-round pick. And I really think that Kenneth Walker's a guy who is going to contribute at an NFL level as a 3rd or 4th round pick, and I really, really like what he's done so far this year. Like, he's going to run for some yards in the NFL. Okay, number 2, Wake Forest, another undefeated team, also lost. Wake Forest lost to North Carolina 58-55. Wake Forest, they were 8-0. They were number 9 team. They were the number 9 team in the country going into this game. And I wonder, I will never know now. I always will wonder if Wake Forest had gone 13-0. They win the ACC title, which the ACC is probably the least respected conference right now in college football of the Power 5. If you win the ACC title game, you're 13-0. You probably get into the college football playoff, I would think. Now that hope is gone, but still, it's a good year for Wake Forest. I just will always wonder like what could have been, and I would have loved to see the college football playoff committee have to make that decision with the 13-0 Wake Forest or like a 1-loss Oregon team, a 1-loss Ohio State team, maybe an undefeated Cincinnati, maybe 2 1-loss SEC teams. Like, would Wake Forest have gotten in? I don't know. Probably not. And that's the college football playoff selection committee's been spared of that decision. But I'm really curious how Wake Forest will finish the year. They've got NC State coming up. Then they play at Clemson. Then they play at Boston College. And I don't know, man. By the way, in this game, Sam Hartman, the Wake Forest quarterback, had 7 touchdowns. He threw for 5. He ran for 2. And what's kind of sad for Wake Forest, like they're having a great year, but 13-0 would have been really special for them. And they were up 48-34 with like 11 minutes left in the 4th quarter. And they lost. I mean, North Carolina had a great comeback. It was a fun ending, actually. UNC had 24 points in the 4th quarter. And once North Carolina was up 58-48, that's when that's when Wake Forest responded with a touchdown at the end of the game to make it 58-55. They could not get the onside kick. And it just, man, that kind of sad for Wake Forest, man. They were having such a good year and came up just short. UNC running back Ty Chandler, by the way, had 22 carries for 213 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was the bell cow of this game. And by the way, Sam Howell, the UNC quarterback, ran for over 100 yards. Like he's got an ability to run the football that I think is very, very underrated, not talked about. If he comes out right now, he's probably a late first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick. The problem is there's such a saturation of quarterbacks right now in the NFL that I don't know that it will benefit Sam Howell to come out right now if he can. So I don't know, man. Interesting stuff there. Let's talk about the third game here. Number 1, Georgia beat Missouri 43-6. Hey, it was great. Missouri started up 3-0, and then from there on, it was all Georgia. I was surprised. I checked out when it was like 43-3, I believe. I was surprised that there was something like that. I was surprised to find out, Missouri got another field goal later in the game. Shout out to Stetson Bennett, man, the Georgia quarterback. He is a guy who he started some games last year, lost his job to JT Daniels. JT Daniels is the man at Georgia. JT Daniels gets hurt. So Stetson Bennett, the mailman, what do they call him? Delivery man, the mailman, something like that. And Georgia, I don't follow that closely with Georgia. I watch what they do every week, but I don't remember the nickname for Stetson Bennett. Anyway, it's really cool that he's been given a shot this year because of the JT Daniels injury, and he's taken it and run with it, man. I've watched him play a couple times this year, playing great football. I think Stetson Bennett is good enough for them he can win a national title. Like Stetson Bennett is playing very, very well, and because you're winning, because you're rolling, unless Stetson Bennett gets hurt, I'm not giving up that starting job back to JT Daniels. JT Daniels did play. Georgia was up by so much against Missouri. JT Daniels came in the game, threw a touchdown pass, but I'm not giving that job back to JT Daniels if I'm the coaching staff at Georgia. Like Stetson Bennett is my starting quarterback. Now, number 4, second-ranked Alabama beat LSU 20-14. Look, man, the more I watch Georgia, the more clear it is that basically Alabama is the only team that even has a shot to beat Georgia. And I'm not even confident Alabama can do it. I watched Alabama blow a couple coverages. Multiple times this year they've done that. They had a miscommunication on the goal line. They gave LSU a wide open, easy touchdown. And Alabama punted 6 times against LSU and had 5 3-and-outs. That's a possession where you have 3 plays, you go nowhere, you punt it away. And I did watch this game, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, I like Alabama. They've got good recruits. I like Bryce Young, their quarterback. Can they score on Georgia? Like, I don't actually know that they can. And it's going to be very, very interesting when Georgia matches up against Alabama. I think a lot of people, myself included, so far have been like, well, Georgia's going to play Alabama in the SEC title game, and Alabama's going to win, and they're both going to make it into the college football playoff. I'm not so sure now, man. I really, maybe I'm just building up the hype in my head, but I really think Georgia might beat Alabama and their year in the SEC title game. I just don't know. But then also, I really truly believe that Alabama is the only team in college football that can actually challenge Georgia. And let's go to game number 5 because I watched number 5 ranked Ohio State beat Nebraska 26-17. And Ohio State might move up in the rankings this week because Michigan State lost. But man, this was not a great win for Ohio State. And their offense they looked okay, but Nebraska's not very good. And I said last week that Ohio State, I believe Ohio State could compete with anyone. I feel dumb. I guess I didn't mean to say that. I think I said except Georgia. I don't remember what I said there. Almost anyone does not include Alabama and Georgia. Ohio State cannot compete with Georgia. That's for sure. And I don't think they could compete with Alabama. And I look at Oregon, Ohio State, Cincinnati, none of those teams have a shot at beating Georgia. I don't believe so. I don't even know that Alabama can, but if anyone can, it is Alabama. I just think we're in a situation now where Georgia's going to run away with it. I really think they're going to win the same way that LSU won. When LSU won the national title with Joe Burrow, it wasn't even close. They beat Alabama, they beat everybody and kind of ran away with a national title. And I'm starting to believe that we're going to see the same thing this year with Georgia. They just look head and shoulders better than everybody else. So everybody can have a bad game, or you lose somebody, you have a couple key players get hurt or get COVID. Like, you never know. But right now, I'm like, I don't see how Georgia doesn't win it all by a lot this year. Now, number 6, Cincinnati. Cincinnati barely beat Tulsa. Cincy won 28-20. They fumbled on their own goal line, Cincinnati did, with like a minute left. So that gave Tulsa first and goal on the 3-yard line. And Cincinnati had to have a goal line stand to win the game. Cincinnati's 9-0, which is great. Like, they're having a good year. But if they get into the college football playoff, I mean, look, here's the thing. I'll lean into it. I'll have fun. But like, oh, Cincinnati, like, it's fun. It's different, whatever. But I've watched now in 2 weeks, Cincinnati barely beat Tulane. Then they barely beat Tulsa. Like, you can't tell me. You cannot convince me that Cincinnati is one of the 4 best teams in college football. You beat Notre Dame. Whoop-de-doo. Can you beat Oregon? Can you beat Ohio State? I don't think so. And I wish they would schedule that. I'm less and less impressed by Cincinnati every week I watch them. And I saw someone put on Twitter, I would give credit if I remembered who said it, but someone said, like, screw style points. Everyone talks about how, like, Cincinnati needs to win by 50 with style points and show, like, they're way better. Someone said, screw style points. Cincinnati's just trying to survive right now. It's so true. And it's just hard for me to believe that they deserve to be in the top 4. And for Cincinnati to be considered one of the top 4 teams in college football, you could convince me even Oklahoma is. Oklahoma similarly struggled to beat Tulane. But at least you have the excuse with Oklahoma, Oklahoma had a different quarterback, Spencer Rattler, playing in that game. So they're like, well, they changed quarterbacks, and you can explain away the struggles that Oklahoma had early in the year. I don't know what you do to explain how Cincinnati almost lost to Tulsa. I don't know, man. I'm not hating. I really like Cincinnati. I love the city. I love the people. And they're a cool story. But they're not one of the top 4 teams in college football. Not right now. Okay, noteworthy number 7. Unranked TCU beat Baylor 30-28. What a game, man. They rushed the field. They got the game-clinching interception. Baylor was 7-1. They were the number 12 ranked team in the nation. And it's kind of crazy for TCU because TCU just had their head coach, Gary Patterson, step down last week. He said, mid-season, I'm out. I got to step down. He walked away. And this was the first game for TCU without Gary Patterson. And not only this year, but in like years and years. And he really brought TCU to new heights. And so for them to go through that, losing their stable, longtime head coach, and then win without him was a big deal. It's very cool, especially beating Baylor. It's just a really cool win for them. And TCU quarterback Chandler Morris, an Oklahoma transfer, had a big game. He threw for 461 yards and 2 touchdowns. TCU wore their gray jerseys with purple helmets and red accents. It's my favorite uniform in all of college football. They're beautiful. The gray, the purple, the red. Like, that's the kind of jersey you make in Madden. And it looks so fantastic. I love it. I think they should wear them more often, honestly. I'm like, why don't you wear that almost every week? I really love that jersey. It's really, I'm not kidding. It's my favorite jersey in all of college football. It's the TCU gray with purple helmets, that red accent. Oh, dude. It's sick. And of course, they put them on, they won. So wear them even more. Number 8, let's talk about the final thing for college football week 10. Fresno State quarterback Jake Haener. Man, I was so excited to watch this guy. He played Boise State. He did not have a good game. Fresno State lost to Boise State 40-14. Jake Haener was 22 for 38 passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. All 3 interceptions were bad decisions. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, an interception was tipped, or it wasn't his fault because of this or that. I can't do that. Every single one of the interceptions Jake Haener threw against Boise State were bad. They were bad decisions, bad throws. And this is Jake Haener's second bad game this year. Against Hawaii earlier this year, he had 4 interceptions. And right now, Jake Haener has a lot of NFL potential. I really think that his ability to throw the ball along the sidelines is fantastic. And he's made some big-time throws this year. Back shoulder throws throws into tight windows. The way he beat UCLA earlier this year made me go, this dude looks like an NFL quarterback. So the talent is there. The ability is there. And he's been really confident. Jake Haener's been really aggressive this year. I think it's part of what has taken his game to the next level. Remember, he used to be at Washington. He couldn't beat out Jacob Eason. I actually thought he was a better quarterback than Jacob Eason at the time, but they went with Jake Eason, who had more NFL potential. So Jake Haener had to transfer to Fresno State. And the confidence, the aggression has given Jake Haener a next level to his game this year in college football. But now he's learning how to balance when to be aggressive and when to let a play die. You see him, he wants every play to work. And sometimes, no matter how talented you are, most of the time, he's like, I can figure this out. No one's open, no problem. Back shoulder fade. And you're like, that guy's covered. He's like, not anymore. Bam. And he makes a great throw. But you can't always do that every play. And I feel like he's just still figuring out the balance of when to be Aaron Rodgers and make a crazy throw and when to go, it's just not there. I need to throw it in my check down. I need to throw it away. I need to maybe take a sack, which no one wants to take a sack. Guys like him are really competitive, but he's still figuring it out. He's somewhere in the conversation between a first-round pick and a second-round pick. It depends on how much somebody loves him. It depends on how he does the rest of the year. This game, I thought, hurt him. Really did. It showed where he is in his development process, is that he's still struggling with that, figuring out that balance of aggression and patience. But I'm really, really curious to see where Jake Haener will land in the NFL draft. If he's a second-round pick for sure right now, in my opinion. And I think that might be a steal with a second-round pick. Like, to go to Pittsburgh in the second round or New Orleans. Like, maybe Miami wants someone to compete with Tua. Maybe he goes to Washington. Like, I believe there are a number of places where Jacob Haener would be a really good value pick at quarterback. And I really like this guy. Now, watching this game against Boise State wasn't pretty. The talent is there. He has it. He's so close, but he's just got to get that next bit of polish where it's like, sometimes you got to know when to not pull the trigger too. And that's some of the most difficult throws to make are the ones you don't make, where you know when to pull it back. And some guys, you want to be more aggressive. Some guys want to be a little bit less aggressive. Right now, we're trying to pull the reins back a little bit on Jake Haener, but he's a really good quarterback. And this game was a reminder of how quickly small mistakes can add up. I mean, a few drop passes. They got the stud receiver at Fresno State. He had a couple drops on third down. Jake Haener missed a throw on 3rd and 8, and a few bad decisions. Like, boom, drop passes, bad decisions. Bad throws, and suddenly you're down. And you lose 40-14. So you got to bring it every single game. And this is not like, I've seen Fresno State's offense operate at a really high level. They didn't do that this week. That's why they're, 7-3 instead of 8-2 right now. They lost to Boise State, and I can't say enough. I really enjoy watching Fresno State. Like, they throw the ball all over the yard. Jake Haener's, I think, really good. I think he doesn't get credit where he deserves, and I'm really curious to see where he goes as an NFL quarterback, because I think he's a second-round pick. He might be a third-round pick, and I think that's a big steal to get Jake Haener in the 3rd round.